Welcome back to the lovely world of reselling, people. Today I'm going to be talking about my interesting relationship with reselling as we currently sit, as I've had a few things happen with eBay, I'm talking about Amazon and all sorts of other stuff. So let's get into it by quickly discussing what's already happened. So depending on which way I've decided to upload these videos, because as you may be able to tell by what I'm wearing and all that sort of stuff, I film every single video for a week in one single day. It's the only way I can realistically get it done. But the more important point is, in either yesterday's video or tomorrow's video, I'm going to be talking about, or have been talking about, my issue with eBay. As of current, I'm currently restricted with eBay. I'm speaking about why that is and how I've tried to get my account back, currently to no success. But the question is, where do I go from here? Because something has happened in the last day that I completely forgot about. I documented it on this channel, but I've forgotten all about it, and I don't really know what to do about this. So we'll get into that first. So obviously the initial issue is that my eBay account is restricted. I've made a full video that's over 16 minutes long talking about it, so I'm not going to do so extensively here, but it's due to the MCO11 restrictions. I went away for a couple of days, didn't respond to a couple of cases that I had, eBay had to step in because obviously I wasn't responding, and then my account got restricted. Ever since I've submitted documents, and I can't get my hands on every single tracking detail. So because of that, I can't get my account back fully yet. I'm currently in contact with the people at eBay to see if this can be resolved, but it appears to be all, robots, machines, and AI, so there's no chance of getting through to a human. Anyway, what I forgot all about is what we did a couple of months ago in a video series, because I didn't actually continue it. My fault and my own laziness, I will admit, but the other eBay store was doing well enough. So I spoke about the fact that I wanted to start a reselling business based around thrifting. The idea was that I could show that anybody can do it, and you don't need to be any sort of an expert. Now, I've already got reselling businesses related to the field of drop shipping, and they were on eBay alongside some of the stuff that I started to stock in my house, just for the fact that I could get it out quicker and get better ratings and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the fact that realistically anybody could be a reseller. And the idea was that I was going to go around a load of thrift stores in my city and try pick up £50 worth of clothing and see what I could get, see what I could resell. Now, this was okay, and I actually bought a lot of stuff, and then I listed it on. On top of that, I had some old clothes of mine that I wanted to get rid of, and obviously some clothes that I could get from friends and family members that I could also list, so all that stuff is free. Now, that video series I must follow up on soon, but the point is, I have 2 eBay accounts, and I just remembered it the other day. Now, the reason why I just remembered it is because an item has sold on my second account. But that begs a big question. Because on eBay, you can have separate accounts, I've been told, by a representative. But to have a separate account while the first one is banned could get you in a much worse position. But an item's already sold on my second account. So I'm sat here thinking, what do I do about this? Do I start selling on that account properly in a different category and try to get rid of some of the old stock that I have? Or do I avoid it? That's a very interesting and kind of significant issue that I've got to deal with. I've been reading up on the forums because, quite frankly, when it comes to eBay, you're not getting anything out of anybody. It appears to all be robots, and again, people that you just can't speak to because, well, there aren't any. So, for that reason, I've been trying to read up on what I can from real people online about what to do with a restricted account. As I've said before, eBay is one of the best platforms to sell on, especially when it comes to used stuff. We can talk about sites like Vinted and Depop, which are obviously very good, but for somebody who's very acquainted with eBay, I'd prefer to sell on eBay if it's a choice. So I want to read up, does eBay ban banned accounts? If I was to start a same account in my name, with a different email, different phone number, will I be restricted? And I've had all of the answers. Yes, definitely. No, probably not. And something in the middle. So I don't know. What I would like to not do, though, is get this account found out before I have a response back from a human at eBay. I'm going to wait a week for this maximum because it's wasting too much of my time. But if I don't get any response back from a human, even after updating the tracking that I can, even after trying to talk about why these issues have occurred, then I'm going to just have to start a new account because at that point, my account's basically banned. I can't get it back because I just keep getting the same robotic responses. So what have I got to lose? If the account's already gone, then it's time to move on to the next one. The worst thing that can happen is that I get banned, which is already where I'm at, so I'm back to square one. So that's one thing, and that's one thing that I'm definitely going to consider in the next few days. And I'd like to ideally continue to get my account back or try and get my account back. That way I can have two legitimate accounts that I don't have to worry about. I can have two accounts where I sell separate things. But if we have to go over there and set up a new account, it's just going to have to happen. It's worth a go, and it may not be worth it, but we'll try. So the next thing that I want to talk about is Amazon. Now, if you remember my journey on Amazon, it was short-lived and very unsuccessful. I didn't sell a thing on Amazon, despite listing a few things. I decided to close my Amazon account just a couple of days ago, actually, toward the mid to late part of August, and the reason for, or September rather, yes, September, and the reason for that was because of the fees. Unlike eBay, Amazon fees are quite high. I'm not necessarily talking about the sales fees, because that's for items that you've already sold, and let's face it, before you price up any item, you should have put it into a price calculator to see what profit you can get after fees. So that wasn't the concern. What the concern was the £30 a month maintenance cost to have your account open. That's unlike a lot of sites that I would personally sell on, and I didn't want to do that whilst I was, quite frankly, losing money. If I was making, 3-4 sales a month, I'd be breaking even. But if I'm not making a penny, it's not worth it. I'm thinking though about going back to Amazon with a new mindset. And this time I want to start selling bigger items for bigger profits. This is a way I didn't really think about doing stuff before. I was going at it with the same model that I did with eBay. Try to sell low cost items, between say 20 and £120 and see how many things I could sell. I think that's not going to be viable with Amazon because one of the big problems that I had with Amazon is that everything on there was so cheap. And that might sound like a contradiction to what I just said, but let me explain. If I'm trying to resell stuff on Amazon, it's not going to be easy, no matter what I choose. Amazon's a site where you can get stuff cheaper than what you can in shops, and it can come basically next day, if not the same day. That's very hard to compete with. So we have to think about larger categories where that's not the case. Categories where people do inevitably want to mark things up. Categories where things can't be delivered same day due to the size of the item, or the fact it's fulfilled by the merchant, i.e. me. This is the new mindset that I'm going to go into Amazon with, but I'm still contemplating that. Ultimately, Amazon appears to be a lot of research to get good products, but when you have winning products, you could be onto something. We need to spend some initial upfront cost, but I think it is worth it. As I have said before, I think where I'm at now, I need to try a lot of new things, especially when it comes to reselling. It's something that I know will work, and it's a pretty easy business model to get on the road. It does require quite a lot of work, and you could talk about setting up warehouses and getting people to run them, and then you can automate the business. But let's face it, that's miles down the road. We're basically on step 1 now, and we've got 5 or 6 or even 7 or 8 steps to go before that's even something that we can think about. So Amazon's going to be something that I'm trying. Etsy's something that I'm trying as well. I spoke in a video a few days ago, I believe it was, about the fact, or potentially in a future video, depending on how I've done it, but at some point this week I'm going to be speaking about the fact that I made my first sale on Etsy. Seems like an insignificant milestone, but it's the first one. It's not the first time I've ever sold on Etsy, but it's the first on this account. Hopefully it's the first of many good things to come. So Etsy's a site that I'm definitely going to be trying with. In terms of the clothes that I have, I've been thinking about that, because eBay is somewhere that you can sell clothes, but obviously with the problems that I'm running into now, I'd rather sell somewhere else. I tried to list a few items on Depop, but I had no success. Admittedly, I only listed about 5 items because jumping in with an actual clothing business is quite intense. Not for time, but for money. And not because I can't afford to spend that money, but it's because I don't know that I'm going to get that back. In terms of, buying stuff, that's a lot more intensive than dropshipping. Dropshipping, I don't have to spend a penny up front. When something sells, I then spend money to make more. When I go out to the thrift stores, or when I find stuff in some shop to resell, I have to buy it, take it home. Then it might not sell. I might be stuck with an item for a long time that I can't shift and down money to begin with. That's a difficult initial position to be in. So I've got to think very carefully, but I'm looking at somewhere like Vinted, Depop, or something along those lines to get the clothes sold. I'd rather keep even if I start a new eBay account, I'd rather keep the eBay and the clothes selling on different sites, but we'll just see how things pan out in that regard. So that's the update with reselling, really. What I'm saying here is, Amazon so far is like that. Not even sure if I want to jump back into that. It seems very intense, but I've seen some very compelling videos on the internet recently which have inspired me to give it another go. I have to say, at that time, I wasn't thinking in my best state in terms of expansion for my businesses. It was not really a great time, especially after just being restricted on eBay and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't put you in a good place to think about what to do next. You start to think irrationally. So now I'm starting to get my reasoning back. I might give it another go and see where we go. Worst comes to worst, £60 for 2 months. I've wasted more than that in the losses that I made in the stock market in our previous video where I spoke about that. So, not awful. Might give it a try and see where we go from there. Also, I have a lot more clothes that I can get access to now to resell. Not stuff that I'm going to be buying because, one, I want to make a video on this where I speak about the fact that anybody can buy cheap clothes to resell. And two, I don't want to waste any more of my own money, especially when I have inventory laying around. So we'll see how that goes, but that's the updates with reselling at the minute. So thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I do hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.